There is a sound you have never heard in the Caribbean. The low, surgical growl of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 dropping flaps over an invisible runway that, right now, is still a mango grove. In 957 days, that grove will be the most powerful square kilometer of concrete in the Western Hemisphere. And the strange part, almost nobody, outside a circle of Kingston engineers and one stubborn beekeeper, knows the real reason why. Stick around, because by the time this recording ends, 3 things will have happened inside your head. 1. The word Negril will stop being a postcard and become a tipping point for every island nation that survives on the scent of jet fuel and sunscreen. 2. You will realize that your future vacation, any future vacation, has already been quietly rewritten in a 437-page environmental impact PDF you can't pronounce. And 3. You will meet a number so large that it dwarfs Jamaica's entire 2023 tourism GDP. That number is 3.7 billion, not dollars, passenger kilometers of cognitive attention. The total human minutes the world will save if planes land here instead of Montego Bay. Attention, it turns out, is the scarcest commodity in the 21st century tropics, scarcer than fresh water, scarcer than beachfront, scarcer than time itself. Negril sits on the knife edge of Jamaica, where the island almost fractures into open ocean. 7 miles of coral sand tilt so gently into the Caribbean that the sunset lasts a full 8 minutes longer than anywhere else on the island. That optical delay, 8 extra minutes of golden photons, created the original business model. Come here, linger, forget the world. But geography giveth and geography taketh away. The same remoteness that preserved the myth also throttled it. Sangster International, the nearest legitimate runway, is 81.3 km of brake-burning, gear-grinding mountain road. For every dollar a tourist spends in Negril, 19 cents evaporates in that transfer. Fuel, driver wages, vehicle depreciation, pothole litigation, lost luggage humidity, and the invisible opportunity cost of vacation minutes bleeding out in a Toyota coaster doing 35 km/h behind a truck of sugar cane. Multiply 1.4 million annual Negril-bound arrivals by 2.4 hours average transit fatigue, and you get 3.36 million paid human hours deleted from the Jamaican economy every single year. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the size of the hole Little London is designed to plug. Little London does not appear on Google Earth's default zoom. You have to scroll west until the road pixels dissolve into lime green polygons, then drop the pegment on a narrow strip where goats stare at you like faulty QR codes. Elevation, 11 meters above sea level. Soil, bauxite-laced loam strong enough to park an A380, yet porous enough to filter rainwater into the Great Morass wetlands 2 kilometers south. Wind rose, 12 knots average, 0-90 degrees variance, perfect VFR 340 days a year. These are not random data points. They are the reason a $460 million futures contract has already changed hands in a Kingston boardroom scented with Blue Mountain coffee and cold sweat. The name Little London is itself a glitch of colonial cartography. 19th century missionaries who missed drizzle so much they baptized a village after a city they would never see again. Now the glitch becomes the portal. Sangster's theoretical capacity, 6.8 million passengers per annum. Sangster's lived reality, 5.02 million in 2023, with peaks of 1183 passengers per operational hour between 11:07 and 14:19. That is 137% design load. At those compression levels, Immigration Hall Code 2 spikes to 1950 ppm, just 50 ppm below the threshold, where human cognitive ability drops 15%. In plain English, tourists land so stressed they forget why they came. Meanwhile, global Caribbean arrivals are compounding at 4.8% a year, driven by New York, Toronto, and Sao Paulo flex currency millennials who treat long weekends like arbitrage. Do the exponential math, and Jamaica will need an extra 2.1 million arrival slots by 2032. Sangster can physically fabricate maybe 600,000. The remaining 1.5 million either materialize in Little London, or they divert to Punta Cana and the Bahamas, taking $2.4 billion in downstream spend with them. This is not infrastructure. This is existential fiscal defense. But wait, can Negril even absorb that kind of velocity without committing ecological suicide? Consider the nitrogen load. Every extra aircraft landing carries 187 passengers who, over an average 5.7 night stay, deposit via urine, detergent, and golf course fertilizer approximately 3.8 kg of reactive nitrogen into an aquifer that already shows 11% coral algae cover increase since 2014. At 400 extra landings a year, that is 71.2 additional tons of nitrogen, enough to tip the reef from coral-dominated to algae-dominated within a decade. The engineers know this, which is why the runway is offset 1.8 km north of the wetlands, why approach vectors dogleg over the sea to avoid bird migratory corridors, why the terminal roof is a 45,000 m2 rainwater harvester feeding greywater toilets that flush with 0.8 liters instead of 6. But the tourists won't see those pipes. They will see cheaper cocktails and #no-filter sunsets, unaware that the filter is now buried under asphalt and regulation. Let us run 4 quick simulations, each validated by CGE, Computable General Equilibrium, models run on Kingston's National Housing Trust supercomputer. Timeline: 2028, first full operational year. Scenario A, soft landing, 650K arrivals, 38% connecting to boutique resorts, average spend $212 per person per day. Net new jobs, 4,700 direct, 11,200 indirect. GDP uplift, 1.04%. Inequality Gini coefficient drops 0.7 points. Scenario B, business class shock, low-cost carriers trigger price war. Fares drop 19%, volume surges to 1.1 million. Hotel stock insufficient, Airbnb spikes. Rental prices push 9% of local families inland. Gini rises 1.3 points. Social tension visible by year 3. Scenario C, cargo gold rush. Runway's 30-48 m length plus 56-ton payload capacity converts Jamaica into Latin America's fresh produce express lane. Ackee, breadfruit, and ganja derivatives reach Miami shelves in 70 minutes flight time. Agricultural GDP jumps 6.2%, but soil micronutrients deplete 18% faster. Scenario D, climate catastrophe. One category 5 eyewall tracks west instead of east. Storm surge breaches 2.3 m seawall. Runway under 1.1 meters of salt water for 31 hours. Insurance void because actuarial tables had not priced simultaneous wind and surge at that latitude. Reconstruction debt, $1.2 billion. Tourism receipts collapse 14% island-wide. Which scenario wins? All of them. Each will occur in overlapping microzones, creating a stochastic mosaic impossible to narrate without sounding schizophrenic. Your takeaway: infrastructure is not destiny, it is a probability cloud. Delray Bent, 63, beekeeper, 4th generation. His 42 hives sit exactly where Taxiway Bravo will bifurcate the property. The state valuator offered J $14 million, 3 times market rate. But Bent countered at J $80 million, not because he is greedy, because the apiary is the last genetic reservoir of the Jamaican solitary bee, a subspecies that pollinates the wild coffee responsible for 14% of Negril's trademark aroma. No bees, no aroma. No aroma, no premium room rates. The standoff is now cited in Harvard negotiation syllabi under ecological existential leverage. Then there is DeLaughing McLeod, 19, who codes Python on a cracked Samsung and built an AI chatbot that answers land compensation questions in patois. Her software has 38,000 active users and zero marketing budget. She is the reason the government cannot spin the narrative without being fact-checked in real time by a teenager who has never left Westmoreland Parish. Add Dr. Kaniel Gabaldon, atmospheric physicist, returnee from MIT, who discovered that jet contrails at 1,500 ft over Little London create ice crystal plumes that increase local albedo 0.3%, enough to drop afternoon soil temperature 0.8 degrees C, potentially saving 1.2 hectares of cassava from heat wilt. He now negotiates with airline dispatchers to schedule landings at angles that double as climate intervention. 3 lives, 1 runway. Multiply by 2,412 residents, and you understand why no spreadsheet can predict the social entropy already fermenting. The terminal blueprints were crowdsourced from 1,200 Caribbean travelers locked in a VR warehouse for 72 hours. Sensors tracked eye saccades, gait velocity, cortisol swabs from saliva. Findings. Tourists experience peak anxiety at 3 moments: baggage claim ambiguity, toilet queue opacity, and duty-free regret. Solution. An arrival corridor with no 90 degrees corners. Curves slow you down just enough to reduce heart rate. Restrooms every 73 meters, average bladder tolerance at sea level. And a duty-free algorithm that pings your phone with a personalized last chance. Coupon exactly 11 minutes before boarding. Peak impulse vulnerability window measured via pupil dilation. The roof is a tensile membrane printed with the exact fractal of Negral's sunset gradient, calibrated so that when you Instagram it, the algorithm boosts saturation 6% without a filter, creating involuntary user-generated marketing. You are not in an airport. You are inside a behavioral optimization loop wearing tropical drag. Little London will be the 7th new airport built in the Caribbean since 2000. 3 are already white elephants. Canwan Island. 2,700 m runway, 14 weekly flights, goats sleeping on the tarmac. St. Vincent Argyle, $1, 4 billion over budget, approach so turbulent flight attendants call it the vomit comet. Curaçao's Hato. Expanded for 2.5 million, got 900K, airport tax now higher than some airfares. What did they miss? The demand curve is only half the equation. The other half is narrative ownership. Tourists must feel they are arriving, not transferring. Negral has one advantage no spreadsheet can model: a cultural brand forged by reggae, cliff-diving rastas, and a sunset so hypnotic it once made Jimmy Carter miss a G7 phone call. If the new airport can bottle that mythology into steel and glass, it beats the curse. If not, it becomes another expensive slab of existential punctuation on an island already littered with the ellipses of abandoned dreams. The government claims 16,000 tons of CO2 saved annually by eliminating 80 km of road traffic. Reality check. One transatlantic flight emits roughly 1.9 tons per passenger. 16,000 tons equals 84.21 economy round trips to London. Roughly 23 arrivals per day, a number the airport will surpass by week 3. Net result, more carbon, not less. To square the circle, planners promise sustainable aviation fuel, blended at 12% by 2029, rising to 30% by 2035. But SAF at scale requires 0.7 hectares of sugarcane per flight, meaning 2,800 hectares of new monoculture, an area currently occupied by subsistence yam farmers. So the green equation becomes a moral shell game. Burn less carbon in the sky, cut more rainforest on the ground. The uncomfortable truth: carbon neutrality in Caribbean aviation is mathematically impossible without demand destruction, which no politician can utter and stay elected. Instead, the airport will sell voluntary carbon offsets, packaged as reef restoration bracelets priced at $18 a piece, manufactured in China for 11 cents, yielding a 99.4% profit margin that finances more marketing. Welcome to the Sustainability Theater, aisle seat on the right. Every passport scanned at Little London feeds into a hybrid blockchain built on IBM Hyperledger and Jamaica's own CBDC wallet. Within 800 milliseconds, your travel history, credit score, and Instagram geotags are cross-scored by an algorithm trained on 2.8 million Caribbean arrivals. Score above 860. Green lane, no questions. Below 620, secondary search, biometric override, and a subtle notification to the taxi queue to quote you 18% higher. The system is invisible, frictionless, and irreversible. By 2030, the airport will hold more data on the global middle class than the IMF. The Jamaican government quietly owns 19% of the analytics JV, meaning your vacation metadata becomes a sovereign asset, collateral for future bonds. You are no longer a tourist. You are a walking securitized instrument whose leisure patterns back the national debt of an island you may never consciously think about again. Today is day 957 until inaugural landing. Here is what must finish before you can sip that first arrival rum. 847 land titles to be digitized and notarized on-chain. 3 endangered American crocodiles to be radio-collared and relocated. 1 radar array imported from Selex Ease, stuck in customs since June, daily demurrage $14,000. 14,000 cubic meters of marl to be excavated by 31 December, or the rainy season turns the site into a lagoon. 42 families still refusing to sign. Their houses circled in red on the war room wall map like casualties in a campaign. No one calls a war. Miss any milestone and the dominoes cascade. Bond coupons spike. Insurance underwriters pull coverage. Political capital evaporates. And the 2030 vision retreats to just another slide deck haunting a hard drive in Kingston. The engineers call it the critical path. The locals call it the long count. Either way, the clock is louder every sunrise. Human memory is not a hard drive. It is a campfire. We remember danger, beauty, and transition. This story gives you all 3 in a single descent. Danger. An island betting its future on asphalt suspended between reef and swamp. Beauty. A sunset that refuses to hurry even for jet engines. Transition. The moment a place you thought was quiet learns to roar. Somewhere inside your limbic system, those 3 signals braid into a pattern labeled Negro, and every future travel decision will be subconsciously filtered through it. That is why infrastructure is never just concrete. It is a firmware update for the collective imagination. When the first wheels kiss Little London, the sound will not merely be reverse thrust and squealing hydraulic brakes. It will be the audible click of an island rewriting its own source code. And you, listener, daydreamer, potential tourist, you will have heard the compile happen in real time. The project may succeed, it may fail, it may limp into a messy hybrid of both, but the story will persist, because stories are the only renewable resource we have not yet figured out how to exhaust. Close your eyes and picture the moment the cabin lights dim, the captain speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Negril International, local time 5:47 p.m., temperature 28 degrees Celsius. Feel the fuselage pivot, glimpse through the oval window a strip of tarmac so new it still reflects the sky like a black mirror. Ask yourself, am I landing at a destination, or am I arriving at a prophecy that started inside a podcast I almost skipped? If the answer feels heavier than the suitcase in your hand, that is the weight of infrastructure intersecting with identity. Carry it gently. The island can only hold so much future at once, and the rest, for now, is up to you.